What is production engineering then?
Well, production engineering is what I did in Barakpur and Guaguari, which is um, collecting all the oil from the producing wells and pumping it away to the refinery, and maintaining the production coming out of each well and servicing the well should it stop producing or should it need stimulation, or generally repairing the well in whatever shape or form. Wells don't produce continuously all the time. They tend to sand off or plug off or wax off. You have to take special tools and clean the tubing, scrape the wax out of the tubing. It's not beeswax, it's wax from oil.
Yes.
So there were many crews. I had de-waxing crews, I had bottom hole pressure crews, I had pipe fitting crews, I had laboring crews to pick up oil and cut grass and paint. They needed a drilling engineer, and they hired me, and I enjoyed my first year with them because it was very learning experience.
What does a drilling engineer do as a
Well, in Canada,
engineer?
the drilling engineer is quite a quite a job. You have to be on the rig when the most important operations are taking place. You have to be on the location, and you have to be as a supervisor of these operations. When it's just straight drilling, you're not necessarily there. But when you're doing the casing, you're putting the casing in the well, the first, second, and third casing, or when you're completing the well, or when the well is giving trouble, or the well is blowing out, or whatever, you have to be there. So as a drilling engineer, you get sent out to the well. You live on camp with all the workers. You have your meals there and everything. And you go onto the rig floor, because the rigs always have a floor where the men work, and then under the floor is all the valves and controls and all that. And you go up onto the rig floor and you sit in the driller's shack on the rig floor, and you look at the reports, what happened last night, how many feet did you drill, etc., etc. And then you phone the office in Calgary or Edmonton, and you give them a report once a day. You only need one report.
You said you had some blowout.
Ah, good point. Yes, so there was one well that was drilled, and I was the drilling engineer on it, but it didn't blow out when I was there. It blew out later. But my boss got fired because of what happened. What happened was they were drilling ahead, and they suddenly got a gas influxion. High pressure gas. They hit some high pressure gas. And it blew out. They managed to shut the well in, but then when they tried to pull the drill pipe, it was stuck. And they fought with that, and then
It blew the casing and everything.
well, they tried to unstick the pipe, and then they had to shut everything down because there was spring.
Mm-hmm.
And in the spring, these remote wells are not accessible. The roads get very soggy, and you can't drive in and out. So the well was re-drilled reopened up and continued drilling the next year in the winter.
You lose animals, you lose livestock, you lose vegetation.
When it blows out, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, if it blows oil all over the countryside and the oil flows down the river and it pollutes everything.
Mm-hmm.
If it blows gas, the only thing is it could kill somebody because of the high pressures. And if the gas has hydrogen sulfide in
That's
it,
right. I experienced that.
then the hydrogen sulfide is heavier than air and it settles. And so the low areas
Gets yellow.
and the low areas of the terrain are very dangerous because if you're in that, you need a mask.
That's right.
So I wasn't involved in any of that type of situation, but
We had that in Forest Reserve.
but I could go back into my time as a summer job during between 1962 and 1967. I had a summer job, and I was sent to Valley View to be a production operator. That means somebody who looks after the wells, measures a tank, how much oil is produced. That's a gauger then. They call him a gauger.
Yeah.
So I got a job as a gauger, and my experience was getting too much hydrogen sulfide on a tank and overcome by the fumes, I passed out and I fell down the ladder. And luckily for me, there were two guys working on the lease, because 99 times out of 100 there was nobody on the lease except me.
Mm-hmm.
But there were two guys laying some gravel for me under my supervision on the lease, and they saw me fall, or they heard me fall, and they pulled me out, and they were going to give me artificial respiration when I woke up. And I woke up with a serious headache. So that's my experience with H2S. But
H2S is a killer, yes.
So
and it happened to Tony's whole crew in Forest Reserve. And the whole area, whole acre and more was just yellow from the sulfur. You know,
yeah, that's a very, very dangerous thing, and it's killed a lot of people.
I had to run to the hospital.
You did?
Well, it affected the crew. They were just coming into the area, and
Wow.
this is my living experience.
Yeah, right. Well, we've had some very serious accidents on the rigs, and luckily I was not there, but I've been told many stories. So the other thing that related to the oil and gas industry was pipelines. Now this is where I consider I've made a genuine contribution to the renovation or rehabilitation of the pipelines that wear out. And now pipelines don't wear out from the inside, no matter what people think or say. They wear out on the outside from corrosion. So to prevent corrosion of a pipeline, you coat it. But the coatings of the old version of pipeline did not stand up long enough. And then when the coating failed, corrosion would take place. Because the salt in the earth, not everywhere, but wherever there's salt, it eats away at the outside of the pipe. And once the pipe gets pitted with this corrosion, it becomes a weak point. And remember, every pump is causing fluctuations. So the pressure is going like this all the time, right? So that is what is called cyclic loading. And cyclic loading of steel causes catastrophic failure, because any little crack in the steel gradually propagates. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, until finally the steel cannot withstand the pressure from inside, and it splits open. And I call it catastrophic failure. That's the term they use. So then a gas pipeline running across here, between here and Montreal or wherever, suddenly blows up, boom! And it's 6 feet under the ground. So people can die anywhere close to that. And that was happening to Trans-Canada Pipeline. Trinidad taught me a lot about the oil industry, because in Trinidad we have every condition under the sun in one island. Every drilling condition, primarily, every geological condition is a very complicated geological structure. And so the people who came out of Canada, of Trinidad, not only the Trinidadian boys and girls, but the British and other foreigners who learned their stuff from guys like me, and from the foremen and the instrument technicians and all these people who taught them everything they know, they went back and made big names for themselves with BP worldwide. One of them was on the executive of the company. Mm-hmm. They knew what they knew, and they learned it in Trinidad. Roger Beckson is one, an Englishman. He married the daughter of the general manager. And Mr. and Mrs. Beckson went to live in England somewhere, London office, I guess. And he became the big jefe in charge of all North Sea operations. And then, not only that, the Queen knighted some of them. Not knighted, sorry, that's not the word. The Queen gave them the title of
Order of the British Empire.
OBE, Order of the British Empire. That's what they got. 4 or 5 of them, all who worked in Trinidad and BP, and some of them even before in TPD. They were given the OBE by the Queen, because BP is a Crown Corporation. Mm-hmm. So that goes to show you how much Trinidad has contributed to the knowledge. We had production techniques that nobody's ever tried in North America. It's called plunger lift. That's a production technique for pumping oil, plunger lift.